Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin, the podcast where we dive into the most pressing stories from around the world. I am your host, Barbara, and I'm glad you're joining us today. We're starting off with a complex and sensitive story unfolding in Syria, where sectarian clashes have resulted in the deaths of at least 102 people, mostly from the Druze minority community. The violence has sparked widespread concern and condemnation from international leaders, with many calling for calm and restraint. According to reports from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a UK-based monitoring group, the clashes began after an audio recording deemed blasphemous was circulated, sparking tensions between the Druze community and security forces. The situation escalated quickly, with armed groups and local militias becoming involved. The Syrian government has announced plans to deploy forces to affected areas to restore order, but many are questioning their ability to protect minority communities. The country's new authorities, who have roots in the al-Qaeda jihadist network, have vowed to rule inclusively, but face significant challenges in maintaining stability and security. Israel, which has been watching the situation closely, has warned the Syrian government to protect the Druze minority, with Defense Minister Israel Katz stating that his country could respond with significant force if necessary. This has led to a heightened sense of tension in the region, with many fearing further escalation. The international community is urging calm and restraint, with U.S. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce condemning the violence and rhetoric against the Druze community as reprehensible and unacceptable. The United Nations and other organizations are also calling for an end to the violence and for all parties to work towards a peaceful resolution. As we continue to follow this story, it's essential to remember the complexities and nuances at play. The situation in Syria is multifaceted, with various factions and interests involved. We'll be keeping a close eye on developments and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're halfway through our program, and I'm excited to dive into our next story. Today, we're focusing on a significant development in German politics. The country's domestic intelligence service, the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, has designated the far-right Alternative for Deutschland Party as a confirmed right-wing extremist force. This decision is notable because it allows authorities to step up their surveillance of the party, which came second in the recent general election, with over 20% of the vote. The AfD has been a topic of controversy in Germany due to its anti-immigrant and pro-Kremlin stance. While the party has gained support from some voters frustrated with immigration policy and the economy, others have raised concerns about its impact on German democracy. It's essential to acknowledge that the AfD's platform and rhetoric have sparked intense debates in Germany. On one hand, the party's leaders argue that they are simply representing the voices of those who feel overlooked by mainstream politics. On the other hand, critics contend that the AfD's ideology is incompatible with Germany's democratic values, particularly when it comes to protecting minority rights. The German government has faced growing pressure to address the rise of far-right extremism in the country. The decision to label the AfD as a confirmed right-wing extremist force may be seen as a step towards addressing these concerns. However, it's also important to consider the potential implications of this move on freedom of speech and political expression. As we continue to follow this story, it will be crucial to examine the nuances of the situation and provide a balanced perspective. We'll be keeping a close eye on how this development unfolds and its potential impact on German politics. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. As we wrap up today's show, let's take a closer look at the ongoing situation in Ukraine. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has been escalating, with both sides reporting attacks and counterattacks. According to recent reports from the Moscow Times, Russian forces are establishing a security belt around the border in Ukraine's Sumy region. This move is aimed at safeguarding the Kursk region in southwestern Russia from future attacks. However, Ukrainian officials maintain that their forces are still present in parts of the Kursk region, where they launched a surprise incursion last year. Meanwhile, there have been reports of drone attacks on Russian oil facilities, which have dealt a significant blow to Moscow's military and psychological efforts. The sales of drones in Russia have surged 20-fold, with the country's largest online retailer recording an increase in sales in January-March 2023. It's also worth noting that Ukraine has been holding at least 800 square kilometers of Russian territory, which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claims is a purely security issue. The situation on the ground remains complex and fluid, with both sides accusing each other of aggression. As we strive to provide balanced and unbiased reporting, it's essential to acknowledge the humanitarian impact of this conflict. Civilians on both sides are bearing the brunt of the violence, and it's crucial that diplomatic efforts continue to find a peaceful resolution to this crisis. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.